Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
It was just past 9, and the wind off the Trinity cut like needles. I'd just clocked out, 6 minutes past 9 to be exact, after running night sort on Stemmons. My legs felt like rubber, but Calder's gig board showed one last rush drop. 2 cans of formula and a cheap digital thermometer. 1 zip code over. I figured I could squeeze it in and still make curfew. I zipped my jacket, kicked my electric moped awake, and pushed into the cold. The bridge shimmered wrong. Black ice on the lip made the lane look wet, but it wasn't. That's when I saw him. Old man, gray jacket, saggy beanie, bent near the guardrail like he dropped something, then just folded. Before we start, share in the comments which city or country you're watching from. And let's continue. I braked hard. My back tire fishtailed a little. He was on the ground, trying to get up, but everything about him moved slow and wrong, like his wires had crossed. He mumbled something, hands trembling bad. Slurred speech, eyes unfocused. I've seen it before. Blood sugar crash. I fished out the apple juice from my backpack, always kept one for long runs, and handed it to him. He cracked it with shaky hands and drank like it burned. I found a half-smashed granola bar in my hoodie pocket and gave him that too. He nodded, still catching his breath. "Clayton," he said. "Clayton Blay." "Where's the dock office?" he asked, blinking like he wasn't sure if he was still outside or somewhere else. Then he just shut off mid-sentence, like a file in his head closed on its own. My phone buzzed. Twice. Calder. "ETA?" I looked at the formula bag still hanging off the moped handlebar, looked back at this man with a torn glove and spit on his chin. Felt like a test. I said, "Sir, I'm getting you home." I wrapped my ragged blanket around his shoulders and pulled my scarf off to tie it around his neck. He winced, but nodded. We tried the back of the moped. The motor growled under our weight like it wanted to die. "Just hold tight," I said. We rolled off the bridge, tires twitching on frost patches. He started humming. A low, almost nervous little tune. I told him to keep talking so I could hear he was okay. He whispered, "Birch Lane, North Dallas," and then leaned forward like he was fading out. A pickup blasted by, sprayed us with dirty slush. He laughed. "Guess we're not invisible," he said, voice thin and tired. I gripped the throttle tighter. "Hold on. We're almost there," I told him, though I had no clue at all where Birch Lane even was. I cut across Royal toward White Rock Lake. Battery gauge dipped to 8%. Danger zone. I leaned forward, praying the pack wouldn't tank before we made it. He kept mumbling. Roses. Something about a white gate. I told him we'd find it. Had to. We hit Birch Lane 5 minutes later. I recognized it by feel before the GPS confirmed it. Old money houses, porch lamps glowing gold behind ivy-covered fences. Big lot, real quiet. One house had a white gate and 2 yellow lamps by the steps. "That it?" I asked. He blinked. "Looks like home." I rang the bell. A man answered, older but sharp. Good coat, steady hands. Looked at the scarf I'd wrapped around the old man and said, "Get in here." "I can't," I said. "I've got a delivery ticking and a boarding house curfew." I grabbed a receipt from my pocket, scribbled my number, and folded it into Clayton's hand. I stepped back before I second-guessed myself. He held the paper like it was something heavier than it looked. I turned and kicked the moped awake again. The motor groaned, but it moved. I didn't look back. I took Royal South and cut across Buckner toward Pleasant Grove. The thermometer buzzed in the bag with every bump. The formula cans clinked once when I hit a pothole near a drainage ditch, and I swear the moped groaned louder with every mile. I hit the complex at 9:50. The delivery window was long closed, but I rang anyway. A porch light flickered, then the door cracked open. The woman looked wrecked, eyes puffy, face worn down to the bone, baby boy crying on her hip, little face red and wet, pajama pants tucked into mismatched socks. She blinked at me like I was the electric company. "I know it's late," I said. "It's free. Formula and a thermometer. Got your address off the gig board. She looked at the bag, then back at me. Free? Yeah. She reached into a jar by the door and pulled out a crumpled wad of singles. Take it. I can't owe nobody. I stepped inside just enough to drop the bag on her counter. You don't owe me anything. I left the receipt under the cans and shook my head when she tried to press the money into my hand. She cried anyway. Soft. Quick. Didn't say thank you. Didn't need to. I walked out fast, heartbeat loud in my ears. Cold air hit me again like it had been waiting. I pulled my gloves on with stiff fingers. That's when my phone buzzed in my pocket. Called her. You blew the timer, Reed, he said. Bag's due Friday. No warning? Consider this the warning. Bring in your bag or get flagged. Then he hung up. Just like that. No room to explain. No chance to say why. I stood there on that sidewalk, under that busted porch light, phone still in my hand, and felt the bottom drop again. 10 minutes later, I was back on Harry Hines, pulling into the gravel lot behind the boarding house. The hallway light was off. My room, second door on the right, had a note taped dead center. Balance past due, room reassigned. Underneath it, a new silver lock. Not mine. My stuff was in a grocery sack by the stairs, a duffel with a broken zipper, a half box of protein bars, and my only spare hoodie. I didn't bother knocking on Mr. Sutter's door. He'd be watching TV with the volume too low and his shoes off, pretending not to hear. I sat on the bottom step and counted what I had. $83, a bus pass with 2 rides left, no bed, no job, no curfew to keep anymore. I didn't cry, not even close. I just stood up and kept moving because stopping would mean thinking. And thinking was poison when you had nowhere to sleep. I cut north, rode slow, stuck to the streets I knew. Ended up at Harlan's Coffee Pavilion off Royal, the one by the pumps where truckers parked long rigs and kept engines warm through the night. The place smelled like roasted beans and diesel fuel and frying oil from the taco stand next door. Familiar, not friendly, but better than cold concrete. Harlan spotted me through the side window before I made it to the register. Guy didn't say much, just slid a hot cocoa across the counter before I even opened my mouth. You look like you got kicked by Tuesday, he said. Wednesday too, I said, wrapping both hands around the cup. Can I crash in the corner if I sweep in the morning? He tilted his head, thinking, then nodded once. Mop buckets behind the counter. Don't steal the syrup. Deal. I sat on an upside-down crate by the window. Cocoa warmed my hands, but not much else. 30 minutes later, the door chime rang, and Lyle Benton strutted in like he owned the place. Warehouse supervisor, khakis always a size too tight, voice loud like he thought volume made him important. He pointed at me with his coffee lid. Didn't expect to see you moonlighting as a charity case? I didn't move. Didn't expect to see you outside the dock without a clipboard glued to your hand. He laughed like I was just some stray mutt barking at cars. Funny, he said. Security team's reviewing Friday footage. Scanner went missing. You were on schedule. I left early. Check the time card. You sure you didn't borrow something on the way out? Just forgot to mention it? You accusing me or just fishing? Lyle smirked. You'll know by Monday. He left with his drink, tossing $1 into the tip jar without looking. I watched him through the window, walking back to his box truck, smug as ever. After close, Harlan double-checked his till. He was short $10. Didn't curse. Didn't get loud. Just said, "Give me a second," and disappeared into the back. 10 minutes later, he came out holding a USB drive. Camera by the pumps caught Lyle skimming from the jar, he said. Same night he says you borrowed a scanner. Palmed a credit slip too. He handed me the drive. Don't lose it, he said. People reveal themselves eventually. I tucked it into the side pocket of my duffel, zipped it halfway. Then I helped him pull the folding cot from behind the drink fridge. Thin mattress, crooked legs, smelled faintly of cinnamon and bleach. I lay down next to the syrup boxes, hoodie under my head, phone under my arm, alarm set for 5:10. As my eyes started to burn, I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out that delivery receipt, the one I'd left under the formula. I hoped that kid was sleeping now. I really did. And I promised myself I'd fix this, one piece at a time. Then I closed my eyes and let the cocoa wear off. I was restocking napkins at the side counter just after sunrise when the sedan rolled up. Clean black, quiet engine, real tires, not gig run cheap. The kind of car you don't park unless you're going to knock. The man who stepped out had a coat that said tailored without trying. Wool, navy blue, collar set right even with the wind. He held up a folded piece of paper and said, "Oliver Reed." I nodded, napkin dispenser still in my hand. "I'm Felix Merrill. Mr. Blay asked for you." That stopped me. Harlan was wiping down the espresso machine behind me. He glanced at the window, then back at me. "You're good. Go." I hesitated, looked back once. Harlan tipped his chin toward the door. So I went. Felix opened the rear door of the sedan, but didn't hold it like a driver. More like someone used to opening doors that mattered. The house was up near White Rock Lake, tucked into a street called Birch Lane. I'd never been in that neighborhood. Big trees, wide drives, old brick and ivy, none of that new money boxy look. Everything about the place whispered that it had stood longer than I'd been alive. Inside, it smelled like lemon wood polish and heat vents, the kind of clean that didn't shout about itself. Felix led me through a narrow hall lined with old ship photos, black and white dock scenes, some workers, some boats mid-build. He paused by one. "Mobile, Alabama, 1978, he said. "First yard Mr. Blay invested in." I didn't answer, just kept walking until we hit the conservatory. Glass panels, winter light catching on polished tile, plants in terracotta pots. Heat from the vents made the air thick, like stepping into memory. Clayton sat on a bench in a knit sweater with a plaid blanket over his legs. He looked 10 years younger than the man I'd hauled off the ice. His eyes lit up when he saw me. "There's the deckhand," he said. I laughed once, unsure. "Feeling better?" "Like I lost 10 pounds of fog," he said. Then he stood, still slow, but steady. He shook my hand with both of his. "You did more than you know, son." I didn't say anything, just nodded and waited. He looked at Felix, then back at me. "You need a place. There's a room here if you want it." I shook my head quick. "I'm not looking for charity. I sleep fine at the pavilion." Felix didn't argue, just listened. I took a breath. "But if you got work, clerical, errands, sorting old stuff, I'll take that. Tasks first, then pay. That's fair." Clayton smiled like he recognized something. "Also," I added, "I got a name in my head. Been turning it over. Wake Lantern." He raised his brows. "That yours?" "Yeah. A ship leaves a wake, right? And the light's what keeps you from crashing into stuff you can't see." He nodded like he'd heard something similar once, long ago. "Late wife used to say lighthouses don't chase storms," he said. "They just stay lit." Felix led us through a side hallway to a small office with a desk that had seen years. The window looked out on a winter garden, bare trellises, patches of ivy, cold dirt. He leaned on the doorframe. "You got a plan, Oliver?" I sat on the edge of the chair. "Keep my warehouse job, get off couches and cots, and—" I paused. "When I can, I want custody of my sister. She's 12, Misty, sharp as a tack, real sharp." Felix nodded once. "That's a real answer." I stepped out front to call Misty. Cold air hit my face like a reset button. She picked up after 2 rings. "Ollie?" "Hey, kid. You eat yet?" she asked. No hello, no pause. "Working on it." She didn't press. "You sound awake." "I had kind of a night." "You gonna tell me later?" "Maybe," I said. "Think you could draw me something?" "What kind?" "A boat, with a lantern on the front." She didn't even hesitate. "You got it." Clayton met me back in the office. He handed me a folded paper check. "For today," he said. From me personally. I looked at the line where it said memo. It read, temp clerical. Appreciate that, I said. Pride's not free. No, it's not, he agreed. I caught the bus back to Royal and walked the last stretch to Harlan's. My duffel was still under the cot, hoodie folded next to it. I sat for a while in the back room, sipping water and stacking empty paper cup sleeves just to keep my hands moving. When I finally laid down, I couldn't sleep. Not from nerves, from thinking. I pulled my phone out and searched sibling guardianship Dallas County. Lot of forms, lot of timelines. Most said hard but possible. That was fine by me. 2 weeks moved fast when your hours didn't stop. Warehouse nights, conservatory days. I'd punch out, chug a cheap coffee, and ride over to Birch Lane with my bag slung tight, fingers numb from cold even with gloves. Felix had set up a desk in the library for me. Real wood, scarred at the edges, paper trays stacked with file folders that looked older than me. I spent mornings logging names off dusty donor lists and scribbled notes on shipyard apprentices from decades ago. Some of the handwriting was so rough, I had to sound it out like a puzzle. Most of it was paper. No cloud drives. No labels. Just a mess of history waiting to be made useful again. Midway through a Tuesday, the door creaked open behind me. "Delivery," a woman's voice said. I turned. She had a canvas tote, color-coded clipboard, and zero hesitation in her stride. "I'm Delaney Frost, volunteer coordinator." She dropped the bag on the floor and smiled. And yes, I brought snacks. She didn't waste time. Started asking the right kind of questions. What we had, who we served, and what we were missing. When I told her about the kids that aged out of the system and landed in shelters or nowhere, she didn't flinch. Just flipped to a blank page and started drawing arrows and checklists. "No handshakes and hope," she said. "Real intake flow. Beds, IDs, someone who picks up the phone when they call." Felix showed her the folders. She didn't blink at the mess, just rolled up her sleeves. That afternoon, Felix's phone buzzed. He picked it up, walked to the window. "She wants to ask about the night on the Trinity," he said when he came back. "Who?" I asked. "Helen Kress, local reporter, says she's heard there's a kid involved." I looked at him straight. If she's digging for drama, no thanks. She said she'll come by without the mic, not pushing for footage. I nodded once. Fine, but no pitch. I'm not anybody's feature story. Helen came that Friday, wore jeans, left her mic off, held a notepad the whole time. She met me in the conservatory. "I'm not here to twist anything," she said. "Good, because I helped him because he needed help. That's it. Nobody owes me anything. I don't need to be explained." She took notes. She didn't interrupt. Midweek, Misty came by with her case manager. Just a short visit, hour tops. She handed me a folded piece of paper before she left. "I made it for your desk," she said. It was a sketch. A little boat, pointed forward, with a round lantern drawn sharp in yellow crayon. I taped it right above my workspace and didn't say a word because I couldn't trust my voice to hold steady. That night, Calder messaged me through the gig app. "Too unreliable for high-priority drops," he wrote. I replied, "Weekends are fine." He heart-reacted the message. Didn't say thanks. Just that. Felt cheap. Back at the warehouse, Lyle was still doing his thing. "Birch boy," he said at least once a shift. "You find a rich granddad yet?" I didn't take the bait. Instead, I kept showing up, logged my hours, moved boxes, didn't flinch. In the library, Felix started teaching me how to read a ledger without squinting. He showed me how to break a monthly close down, how to mark liabilities, and how to flag gaps. "You treat the numbers like witnesses," he said. "They don't lie, but they don't explain either. That's your job." Delaney walked me through how to ask for help without sounding like I was drowning. "You don't need to beg. You need to be clear. Here's what I've got. Here's what we need. Here's the gap." Before we moved $1, Felix brought in an outside CPA. Neutral party, Dallas-based. He drafted a one-page controls memo, 2-signature rule on every expense, no cash handling, receipts uploaded or logged within 24 hours. Then we filed papers, real ones. Wake Lantern Foundation, Incorporated, Board of 3, Felix, Delaney, and a woman named Rena from the church outreach team who didn't smile unless she meant it. No family ties, no strings. Felix drafted bylaws, plain and tight. We added a conflict of interest clause. Simple language, nothing fancy. Wake Lantern Foundation, Clayton said, sitting in the library that Thursday. Still sound right to you? I nodded. Yeah, it still does. I grabbed an index card and wrote the mission in black pen. We don't fix people, we steady them. That Saturday we tested it. Delaney lined up a church lot in Richardson. Felix cleared it with their outreach team. I packed a fold-out table, paper forms, and winter kits, gloves, hats, hygiene packs, basic snacks. We didn't take names for tracking, just first names and counts. No photos, no social posts. A kid hugged a blanket like it was treasure. His mom cried without a sound. We cleaned up fast. We left it quiet. No speeches, just real hands doing real work. Later that night, I laid back down on the cot in the pavilion's storage room. The sugar syrup boxes made a weird kind of wall behind me. I stared at the ceiling for a while, jacket still zipped. I kept thinking, if we just did that every Saturday, nothing big, just consistent, maybe fewer kids would freeze. Maybe one would get a bed, or a name they could call for help. I set my alarm for 5:30, pulled my hoodie over my face, and tried to sleep without thinking too far ahead. It started with a trash headline on some Dallas gossip blog. Mystery teen moves in with shipping mogul. Like I was a stray dog that wandered into a country club and got adopted. The whole thing bounced around socials like a bad joke. They cropped a blurry photo of me unloading outreach kits from the back of Felix's car and added some line about, "Who is this kid really?" I didn't click on it, but Delaney saw it. She told me while I was labeling boxes. "You want me to write them?" she asked. "No point," I said. "They're not asking. They're fishing." Then Helen's piece dropped. It was cleaner, mostly facts. She stayed calm, quoted Felix once, showed footage from the church outreach, but her anchor teased it with that one line. Questions remain. I texted her after. That line fed the wrong people. She called 5 minutes later. "You're right," she said. "I didn't catch it in edit. I'll do better." I believed her, but the damage was already out there. That Friday, some skinny guy parked across from Birch and filmed me through the fence while I took trash to the curb. "You hunting sugar, bro?" he shouted. "Got yourself a big spoon?" I stared right at him, then buzzed the gate and walked back to the kitchen. Didn't say a word. Let the buzzer hum while I packed outreach packets with latex gloves and powdered drink mixes. Back at the warehouse, it got worse. Lyle stood in the break room like he owned it. "Whole crew's wondering," he said. "Think we should check lockers. Make sure nobody's walking off with scanners." Everyone looked at me. I put my sandwich down slow. "Check mine first," I said. "Go ahead and dump it on the floor if it helps your brain." He didn't. Just smirked and walked off with his big mug and his tiny man pride. That night, Delaney and I rode out to Pleasant Grove to drop a load of donated coats. The church let us use their basement door. Most of it was kids' sizes. The mom from the formula run saw us from the stairwell. She didn't come close, but she waved with both hands like she was trying to say thank you without interrupting. Delaney nudged me. "That her?" "Yeah," I said. "That's her." Back at Birch, Felix asked if I could help him move a couple boxes from the upstairs hall closet. We carried them to the library, and when I opened the top one, a shoebox slid out. Inside were old photos, sun-faded prints, curled at the corners. "Who's this?" I asked, holding up one of a woman laughing in front of a trellis wrapped in roses. Felix glanced down. "Evelyn, Mr. Blaze's wife. That was the garden out back." I looked out the window. Doesn't look like that now. He nodded. He stopped going out there after she passed, said it got too loud. I held the photo for a long second. Think we could rebuild it? I asked. Good for him. Might be good for the house, too. Felix didn't answer right away. Then he said, run it by him. So I did. Clayton was in the conservatory, hands folded over a crossword puzzle. I showed him the photo. We found this. I was thinking maybe it's time to bring it back. He didn't look up at first. Just pinched the bridge of his nose. I stopped going out there because the memories felt loud, he said. Not bad. Just louder than I could handle. Then we make new ones, I said. That's what I think Evelyn would have done. He looked at me like he was trying to see past something, then nodded once. If we're doing it, it's got to be done right. Delaney called a landscaper who owed her dad a favor. The guy came out the next morning with graph paper and a Red Bull. We sketched beds for winter pansies and mapped out trellises that'd hold roses come spring. Felix got soil samples sent out. Delaney found seed vendors with bulk discounts. That same weekend, Helen showed up again. No camera crew this time. Just her, a tablet, and a look like she meant business. I want to reframe it, she said. Run the receipts, show how this foundation actually works. Then ask, Felix said. We keep everything logged. We gave her full access to receipts and work logs. No red tape. Every transaction was stamped, indexed, cross-checked. Felix even laid out a timeline of who accessed what and when. She sat at the kitchen table for 3 hours going through binders, said barely a word. Then she closed the last binder and said, I'm going to write it clean. Meanwhile, Calder DM'd me a laughing emoji under some stupid meme about sugar babies and startup budgets. I didn't reply. I blocked him instead. Felt better instantly. A couple days later, a padded envelope showed up at Birch with Misty's handwriting on the corner. Inside were 2 seed packets, one for coneflowers, one for sweet alyssum. The note just said, plant these for her. I set them by the sink where I'd see them every time I made coffee. That evening, I walked the garden space with a rake and started clearing the dead ivy. The dirt was stubborn, cold-packed from years of neglect, but under the surface, it held. Just needed someone to dig in and start. The garden was halfway cleared when I got the call from HR, some middle manager named Tanya, who sounded like she didn't want to be on the line any longer than she had to. We've scheduled an internal review, she said. Monday morning, 8:10, conference room B. What's it about? I asked, even though I already knew. Mr. Benton submitted a report involving time discrepancies and inventory concerns. I didn't ask what kind. I didn't have to. That night I skipped the cot at Birch and crashed back at the pavilion, in the supply room next to the syrup crates. Felt like the place I needed to be. Couldn't sleep. I laid there staring at the ceiling tiles and replaying every minute of that week. Every clock in, every route, every hallway camera I'd passed without thinking. Harlan came in around 5 with 2 cups of coffee. One for him, one for me. He didn't ask, just handed it over and said, You're gonna need this. Then he reached into the till drawer, pulled out a USB stick wrapped in a receipt, and slid it across the counter. Still got this from the night he skimmed the jar, he said. I labeled it, date, time, everything, just in case. I nodded, shoved it into my coat pocket, and felt like something finally tilted back my way. At 8:10 sharp, I walked into conference room B with my coat zipped and the USB in hand. Lyle was already there, standing by the monitor with a smug look like a man who'd brought backup to a street fight. He's always disappearing, Lyle said, before I even sat down. Shows up late, leaves early, and here, he pointed to a grainy still printed on paper. This is from Friday. That's the scanner we're missing. That's him. We clocked the device number. Tanya looked at me without blinking. Do you have a response? Yeah, I said. Play this. I handed her the USB. She plugged it in, and the room fell quiet as the screen came to life. Footage played. Lyle leaning over the tip jar, slipping bills from the side, then palming a fuel slip and tucking it into his coat. Timestamp matched the Friday in question. I pointed to the corner of the frame. That's the same night he says I stole something. Lyle opened his mouth, but I cut him off. I also brought my timesheet. I pulled the printed copy from my folder and laid it on the table. I was at the Birch Conservatory that night. Ask Felix. He's got the guest log. Tanya looked between me and Lyle. We'll need to confirm. Do it, I said. She typed something quick, then called down to security, asked for badge swipes and dock cam pulls for that entire night. 15 minutes later, a guy in a windbreaker came up with a printout. He handed it to her, nodded once, and left. She flipped the pages, silent, scanning. Then she said, Oliver's badge never entered the scanner cage that night, but Mr. Benton's did. Twice. Lyle tried to talk again, but she raised a hand. Please wait in the hall. He scoffed, mouthed something ugly at me, and walked out. She waited until the door clicked shut behind him. You'll get formal notice later today, she said. But as of now, Mr. Benton is suspended pending further review. I sat still, not smug, just steady. Are we done here? I asked. For now, she said. I stood up, nodded once, and left with my back straight. By the time I got outside, my phone buzzed. Helen. I picked up. I heard, she said. Tell me how you want this covered. Talk to Harlan and Felix, I told her. Don't add heat. Just tell the truth. She didn't argue. That night she ran a clean segment. No music, no drama. Just warehouse claims collapse after video surfaces. She ran the timestamps, showed the audit trail, quoted HR without editorializing. No clickbait, only the facts. After it aired, my phone lit up again. Called her. My bad. You want late night roots again? I stared at it. Thought about all the times he ghosted me for being 5 minutes late, or treated me like a vending machine with legs. I typed back, I'd rather fold socks than run for someone who laughs at people's pain. Blocked him too. Back at Birch, Clayton had seen the story. He was sitting in the library with the light low, a legal pad in his lap. I stepped inside. He didn't say much, just reached out and gripped my shoulder. You handled that like a captain, he said. I just held the wheel, I told him. He smiled. That's half the job. Over the next few days, donations started to trickle in. Nothing huge, just quiet support. Handwritten checks with tiny notes in the margin. Some just said steady work. Others had no message at all, just the name Wake Lantern written clean and sharp. Delaney sorted them, labeled envelopes, logged everything. Felix updated the board. No spotlight, no press release. But it felt like the city had taken a breath, like people were watching again, with clearer eyes this time. And I felt something settle in my chest. Not peace, not yet, but balance. The CPS office had that smell I'd learned to hate, like warm toner and floor wax, with just enough paper to remind you the stakes were real. I sat across from a woman in a slate gray blouse. Her badge said Duarte, M., clipped just above a lanyard with some kind of wellness quote on it. She didn't smile. She didn't shake my hand. She just opened a manila folder and said, You'll need verifiable housing, stable income, and 3 letters of character support. That was it. No welcome, no nonsense. I nodded. Got it. She glanced up once. You already have a placement history with your sister, correct? Yeah, I said. We were in the same home for about 10 months, before they split us. Ms. Duarte flipped a page like it weighed nothing. Then you know how hard this is. I do. That afternoon, I hit the steps at the pavilion and caught Harlan refilling a napkin tray. You busy? I asked. He looked me over like he already knew. You need a letter? Yeah, for CPS. He grabbed a pad from under the register and said, Give me 2 hours. Delaney was next. She didn't blink, just said, Name, contact, And do I list the coat drive or the intake system? Both, I said. Felix offered to write the employment verification himself. Neutral tone, he told me. No flattery, just the facts. Good, I said. Facts get read. That night, the Wake Lantern board met over sandwiches and water bottles in the side office. Felix ran point. Delaney pushed for a part-time stipend to cover my hours. Real compensation, not just honor system goodwill. The board approved it. Felix filed it clean through payroll and stapled a copy to the front of the CPS packet. I stared at the packet for a while after. Not scared, just wired. Next day I brought it to Ms. Duarte. She didn't say thank you, just took it and said, "We'll verify all of this." I brought warehouse pay stubs too, I added, and a bus route with my shifts circled. She nodded, flipped through, and paused once on the calendar Felix had printed. Then she closed the folder. "Next step will be a home visit," she said. She didn't say when, just left it hanging like a test I wouldn't be warned for. That night, Felix asked me to walk the garden with him. The winter pansies were starting to settle in. He stopped near the old bench and said, "Clayton would rest easier if you stayed here full time. You've already proven you're no burden." "I'm not trying to be a guest," I said, "or a pet project." "You're not. You're part of this." He let the quiet fill the space, then added, "You can still be your own man." I took a night, sat in the library, stared at Misty's sketch pinned to the side wall, the boat, the lantern. Pride's good, but it doesn't feed a 12-year-old. Next morning I moved my bag into the small room across from the winter garden. The walls were plain, the bed creaked, but the light through the window hit different, like it had purpose. I hung Misty's drawings above the dresser with pushpins Felix handed me. Delaney showed up later with a used desk and a lamp. She set the box down and said, "You sign, I label." We turned the closet into a study corner with a corkboard and 3 folders. Ms. Duarte showed up for the home visit that Friday. Felix met her at the door with the logbook and binder in hand. Clayton sat straight in the conservatory, sharp as ever. He answered every question without drifting. "No live-in aides," he said. "Just us. He's pulled his weight since day one." Ms. Duarte didn't say much, just checked boxes and asked to see my room. I showed her the desk, the binder of shifts, the printed calendar. She didn't smile, but she nodded. That night, I circled the hearing date in red marker on the calendar by the study lamp. Late spring for the prelim, midsummer for the final, if all went smooth. Delaney handed me a printout for 2 community college courses, Dallas College Richland campus. One was Intro to Nonprofit Admin, the other was Business Comm. "Grant covers materials," she said. "You cover hours." "I'll make it work," I told her. Clayton was in the library later, reading a paperback with a cracked spine. I held up my new student ID. He looked at it, then at me. "A good deckhand learns navigation charts," he said. "And keeps a steady line," I added. He smiled, just once. That was enough. The next morning, Helen's op-ed ran in the morning news. She didn't name me, didn't even hint. Just wrote about how some kids age out of the system with more willpower than resources, and how dignity was worth investing in. Felix clipped it and slid it into the Wake Lantern files. Delaney framed a copy and hung it in the First Watch office, the small space she'd leased in Richardson with help from a donor family who didn't want credit. Volunteers came in slow at first, then faster. Some brought socks, others brought phone cards. One lady donated 25 pillowcases and said, "Every kid deserves something soft." I started riding down to Pleasant Grove again once a week. Grocery packs, no labels. Sometimes I saw the mom from the formula night. She'd wave from her door and hold up her kid like he was proof things could work out. I didn't go for the story. I went because my head was clearer after. Because if I was going to fight for custody, I needed to stay sharp. And because I knew what it felt like to stand on the edge of the system and wonder if anyone even saw you. The storm was already brewing over North Dallas by the time we started setting up. Big, slow thunder overhead like the sky was clearing its throat. We launched Wake Lantern in the rec hall of a church off Greenville. Folding chairs in straight rows, a plastic table with cookies from Delaney's neighbor, and a rented PA that buzzed when you tapped it. Felix brought a projector he didn't trust. I brought a printed run of mission cards and a bus tub full of bottled water. Delaney was in 2 places at once, her clipboard already half bent. Helen came through the back door just after 6. She wore a denim jacket and had a 2-person crew behind her, sound tech and cam op. She kept her word. Camera stayed back by the aisle. Mic stayed off until we were ready. She shook my hand like a neighbor, not a reporter. "We'll frame wide," she said. "No faces unless they opt in." "Appreciate that," I said. "We keep it clean." "Clean's easy when you've got receipts," she said. She wasn't wrong. I stood at the front, mic in hand, the slide deck Delaney finished at 2 in the morning queued behind me. "We're not big," I told the room. "We're not fast. We don't promise the moon. We keep the light steady. That's it." Clayton stood next. His welcome was short, just a few words about ships and second chances. He didn't linger. He didn't have to. Felix followed with the numbers. Clean slides, bullet points, no bloat. He walked through our ledger, our outside CPA, our no cash handling policy. Nobody blinked. Q&A started just as the thunder cracked again, closer this time. Midway through a question about tutoring volunteers, the projector died with a loud pop. The church lights flickered once, buzzed, then came back on. People shifted in their chairs, and that's when Calder, that Calder, spoke up from the back. He raised his hand like he was still playing dispatcher. "I've got a question," he said. "How do we know you're not commingling funds between the foundation and the house?" A few heads turned. Some leaned back. I didn't say a word. Felix did, calm as ever. "There's a table by the door," he said, pointing without even glancing. "It has printed ledgers, a summary of our bylaws, a letter from our independent CPA, and the board roster. You're welcome to review any of it, or ask our treasurer." That shut Calder up. People stopped looking at him and went back to asking about volunteer hours and winter coat sizes. A woman from a PTA stood up and said she knew 5 families that needed bedding by next week. 2 teachers from Richardson Elementary handed Delaney a list of kids needing shoes. She started crying right there, quiet but real. Felix handed her a tissue. She didn't stop sorting forms. Then Misty stepped up with a big poster board held flat against her chest. "I cleaned up the logo," she said, "made it brighter." She turned it around. The room went still. It was her sketch, now in color. A boat, small and steady, with a round gold lantern at the front. Waves underneath. A thin banner across the top. Wake Lantern. The kind of simple that stays with you. Somebody clapped. Then another. Helen didn't film it. She just watched and scribbled something in her notebook. We collected 73 small donations that night. Nothing flashy. No checks with 4 zeros. Just bills tucked into the giving box, and app receipts logged through the church treasurer. Everyone auto-confirmed by email. No whales. Just people. That felt better. After cleanup, I rode back to Birch in the dark with the wind slapping my sleeves. The storm hadn't cracked yet, but the air was heavy. I took the seed packets Misty had mailed and stepped out into the garden, flashlight wedged between my neck and shoulder. The dirt gave easy near the trellis. I planted the coneflowers first, then the sweet alyssum. Light rain started tapping the ivy when Clayton stepped into the doorway. He didn't have a coat, just leaned against the frame like he'd been there a while. He looked out at the soil, then at the packet in my hand. "Evelyn liked alyssum," he said. We didn't say anything else after that. We didn't need to. It was a Tuesday morning, early summer, hot already, and only 7:40. I'd just refilled the watering can when I saw Clayton slumped in the greenhouse chair, face pale, knuckles white. We handled it quick. Glucose tablets, lukewarm tea, and a steady hand on his shoulder. He came back slow but alert. Still, the whole thing knocked the wind out of him. He stayed in bed most of that week. Didn't complain, didn't pretend, just rested. On Friday, he called me into the library. The blinds were drawn. His lap desk sat open with Wake Lantern's bylaws laid out clean. "I want to go over this one more time," he said, voice thin but sharp. His hands shook holding the pen, but his eyes didn't. He initialed every change, every clause. When he finished, he closed the folder and set his palm over it like it needed anchoring. Then he told me about the first boat he bought into, some fishing trawler in Port Isabel with rusted siding, and a captain who drank too much. "Guy stiffed the workers 3 weeks in a row," he said. "So I fired him and paid the crew out of my own pocket." I raised an eyebrow. "That legal?" "Not one bit," he said. "But it was right, and sometimes that's what wins." Then he looked me straight in the eye. "You're the same kid. You just had to grow into it." I didn't say anything back. I didn't need to. 2 Fridays later, Felix found him in his armchair, head tilted like he'd just nodded off. Peaceful. Still. My old gray blanket folded under his hands like someone had tucked him in. The funeral was simple. Chapel off Greenville. Full pews. Felix handled the program, and Delaney read one of Evelyn's favorite lines from an old prayer book. A dockhand from Galveston hugged me outside and said, "He once paid for my kid's braces. Said I didn't owe him a thing." Harlan showed up late, holding a box of donuts. "For the crew," he said. Then he stood in the parking lot, wiped his eyes, and didn't try to talk through it. I spoke when they asked me to. Didn't read anything. Just talked about a night on the Trinity and a bridge that should have let a man fall. About how sometimes the right turn doesn't look like much until it's already behind you. "Second chances don't shout," I said. "They just hold the door open and wait." After, Felix handed me an envelope in that careful way he did everything. Clayton's handwriting on the front. Inside was one sheet of paper, no fluff. "House matters are handled. The board holds the reins. I ask Oliver Reed to guide it as interim executive director, with Felix to keep the books and protect the controls. One rule remains: keep it honest." I folded it once and put it in the inside pocket of my jacket. Didn't speak for a good while after that. 2 weeks later, we finished the garden. I built a small wooden sign, nothing fancy, just the Wake Lantern logo burned into the surface and a simple name, Evelyn's Garden. We posted it at the corner by the trellis. Misty read a short poem she wrote on lined paper. Something about a light that doesn't shout and a gate that never closes. She didn't look up the whole time she read it. By mid-July, the court set our final hearing. Felix highlighted the date and tacked it above my desk next to my course syllabus. I didn't tell Misty until the night before. She asked, "You think it'll work?" "I know it will," I said, "but I'll still bring your backpack just in case." She smiled and said, "You better." At the hearing, Ms. Duarte walked in holding a binder and an envelope. She sat behind me. Never said a word during the proceeding. The judge skimmed the packet, asked me 2 questions, asked Felix one. Then he looked right at me. "You understand this is permanent. Full managing conservatorship. Financial and legal responsibility for your sibling." I nodded once. "Yes, Your Honor, I understand." He signed the order with a thick blue pen. Ms. Duarte stood and turned to me, just as we were leaving. She smiled for the first time. "Good job, Mr. Reed," she said. I didn't breathe for a full second. Then I did. That afternoon, Misty moved into the small room across the hall. She hung her boat poster above the desk and tossed her hoodie on the back of my chair like she'd always lived there. She opened a juice pouch and said, "You realize you're in charge of snacks now?" "I've survived worse," I said. That night I called Helen. I didn't need coverage, just wanted her to know. "Thanks for doing it fair," I told her. "When it counted?" She paused before answering. "You earned every inch of the ground you stand on. Don't forget that." After the call, I walked out to the garden and sat by the trellis. The alyssum had started to bloom, low and sweet. I looked at the sign, then the sky, and promised Clayton I'd keep the light on. And I knew exactly what that meant. I was 56 the year they re-waxed the floors in the Skillman Center. Still squeaked like the old roller rink it used to be. My office sat at the back, 2 windows, crooked shelf, a clock that lost 5 minutes a month. That's where I'm telling you this from now. Wake Lantern runs 3 centers these days: Richardson, Irving, and Pleasant Grove. No billboards, no slogans. Just quiet help in the right places. IDs, beds, tutors, first leases. We write checks that buy time, not pride. We train dignity back into tired bones. I finished my classes at Dallas College, slow but steady. Took a job shelving books in the student library while I chipped away at the rest of my degree. UT Dallas, night classes. Got that paper just past 35. Didn't walk the stage. Just nodded at the registrar and went back to work. Misty turned 50 last month. Hard to believe. She still draws boats, still wears her hoodie too big and keeps a notebook in her tote with sketches of lanterns and bridges and little handwritten quotes. She teaches part-time at the same college now, biology of all things. Saturday mornings, she still runs our intake table like it's her full-time post. You show up cold or hungry, she's the one who meets your eyes first. Felix still wears the same tie most Tuesdays, navy with little gold anchors. Grayer now, but the hands are steady. He keeps the books straight, keeps our bylaws tighter than ever. Some donors call just to thank him for making every cent make sense. Delaney married a teacher from Denton who bakes bread and calls every intern coach. She runs the volunteer army like it's a campus, no final bell, clipboards, walkie-talkies, matching shirts. She makes kindness feel like a team sport. I swing by Harlan's pavilion twice a month with muffins. He pretends not to see me coming and always hands me a coffee I didn't ask for. Senior discount, he says now, grinning. I'm not that old, I always shoot back. You ain't young either, he says. Then we sit in silence and sip like it's a ritual, which it is. I saw Lyle once, maybe 6 years back. Pawn shop off Northwest Highway, head down at the counter. I didn't approach. He looked up, nodded once. I nodded back. That was it. No speech, no jab, just 2 stories that don't need to be retold. Helen still calls, not often, but when it matters. She doesn't chase headlines anymore. She asks what we're short on. Last time it was mattresses. Said she'd handle it. Week later, city trucks dropped off 20. The Birch Lane garden blooms earlier now. Maybe it's the soil. Maybe it's just grace. The alyssum spreads low and sweet. The roses climb that trellis like they were trained for it. Same shape I saw once in Evelyn's photo, back when it was all just an idea in a shoebox. I still ride that old moped sometimes. Rebuilt it twice. Doesn't go fast, but it gets me where I need to be. Now and then I pass that same bridge on the Trinity, the one where this all turned. I don't ride it in winter anymore. Don't push my luck on ice. But I slow down. I remember the fall, the scarf, the quiet hum of that woman's song. People ask me sometimes what the trick was. There wasn't one. I made a choice when it hurt to make it, and then I kept making it, over and over, until the ground held me steady. So if you're looking for a shortcut, I don't have one. But I've got this. Do the good thing, even when it burns, and keep your footing. The road will shake you. It'll try to toss you into the ditch. But a steady heart? It finds its way back to warm light. That's not poetry. That's just how it went. Hey, just one thing before you scroll. When life gets hard and no one's handing out second chances, what's the one steady thing you hold on to? If this story moved you even a little, please tap that hype button. It helps more folks find it. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe and like. It's a small click that means a lot to us. Drop a comment too, even just good story or what part stuck with you. I read everyone. Love you guys.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.